Good morning, campers. So today is the day that I didn't really want to do, but I mean, we got to do it eventually. And that is, we got to do a glue test. So here we have our competitors right here. And in previous glue tests that I've done, initial ones, I have found that the spray foam works by far the best. I mean, a really good adhesion. It comes out pretty damn hard. It's pretty excellent. That's what I've been using so far, and the little bit of construction we got going on here with the cabinets. So the cabinets there have all been glued together with spray foam, and it's excellent. So I already know that is a good choice. I know what that's like to work with. It's not flexible. It comes out pretty stiff. I mean, it's slightly flexible, but I wanted to try some other things. So first of all, we have elastomeric. And you know, let's do this too. There we go. Well, let's go the other way. All right. So we got elastomeric, which is, I know that to be weatherproof and flexible, so I figured that's a good choice. Then we have foam fusion, which I've seen in other YouTube videos that's supposed to be really good. In my experience, it's okay. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be better than that. Then we have foam fast from the same company. It's a little bit different. It's supposed to also work with other types of foam other than just this XPS foam. We also got the Valspar semi-gloss exterior. Then we got just plain old Gorilla Glue, and then we got Gorilla Glue Heavy Duty, and then Gorilla Glue Heavy Duty Ultimate. So this morning I've been looking at kind of some data, trying to rough in some notes about how did the test hold up edge to a flat and then flat to flat, how to do with canvas, how did it do with the weed cloth, the screen, is it flexible, is it easy to use, and haven't really been impressed with any of them so far. So let's just kind of go through the list here real quick. The elastomeric is not dry, hence the NDs. The canvas, it failed to stick to the foam really at all, so that pretty much failed. It did the best with the screen. It is flexible and it is fairly easy to use, but all in all, I don't think we can do the elastomeric. We're gonna have to wait for it to dry. The snap test, I mean, you can tell it inside, it's just not dry, it's still wet. So we can come back on that again, really. The foam fusion, still not dry, which is supposed to dry within a couple hours, so I don't know why. And I crossed it out because it's pretty old, and I don't think I used enough. I had just a little bit left in the last bottle. That's a brand new bottle, so we really ought to do that one again. The foam fast, I'm not sure. It was kind of mixed results. I wonder if it'd be any better with sanding. It did okay with the joint test, but it was kind of weird because we had a partial fail with the foam and then a partial fail with the glue. So that was kind of like a 50-50 with the flat to flat. Pretty much everything passed, ironically, except for Gorilla Glue Ultimate, which is kind of odd. Because trying to pull, when they're together like that, flat, that's a lot of surface area, trying to get them to pull apart is pretty hard. And the foam fast did pretty good with the screen, because the screen doesn't want to pull out of the glue. It didn't really do very well with the weed cloth or the canvas at all. So with that one, the screen worked better, and that seems to be a common pattern. A lot of them, the glue will stay to the foam, and it's just a matter of the screen is getting pulled out, whereas most everything else, the glue is coming up with the cloth. So anyways, try to get back on track here. The Valspar semi-gloss exterior is no good foam to foam for sure, of course, we kind of figured that. It's best with the screen and then with the water, the weed cloth, and then pretty much failed with canvas. So if we take a look at that, I mean, they're still not dry in the joints. They did already, you know, they came apart pretty easy. The canvas really is not holding at all. The weed cloth did pretty good. You can see a little bit of, there's a little bit of pink, so that means it's actually pulling up the foam. Pulling up some of that film on the foam, so actually that was doing pretty good. But then with the screen, it was doing probably the best. But I mean, it's pulling, takes quite a bit of force, and you can see all the pink. You can see all the pink that's there, so it's pulling the foam up. So it's doing pretty good with that. So the exterior paint is not too bad for the screen and the cloth. Let's see what else. We also have PVA primer. I would like to try it again with adhesive primer. So let's make a note of that. Adhesive primer. And my handwriting sucks, so forgive me for that. Anyways, adhesive primer, I think that would be a big key to do that again. But the PVA primer that I have, I forget what PVA is good for. I don't even know, I just have it. It's pretty runny, so maybe that was kind of a waste of time. The Gorilla Glue did very good. All the cloths, all the covering materials came out like freaking armor. We did have really good adhesion where it actually failed with the foam, so that's good. And of course I couldn't get it to pull apart with the flat to flat. And then we did have kind of a mixed result on this one. This one was the one where I sprayed a little water. So it's a Gorilla Glue with a little water, which is a water curing glue. So it needs moisture, and here in the desert, I thought, let's try that with a spray. So I got a little sprayer, does a little mist. So I put glue on both sides. I put glue in the middle and I rubbed them together to get the glue really even. And then I put a light mist on the one side, pressed them together, and mushed them together really good so there was moisture inside. So this was kind of a strange result where it's kind of like it did fail at the foam, but it kind of failed at the glue at the same time. So I think maybe the water droplets made the foam up more, because definitely this one was a lot more foamy. Little micro bubbles. This one was more foamy than the other ones. So for as far as foam to foam, Gorilla Glue is pretty good, I gotta say. And then the cloths, they're really hard like armor, but because the stuff foams up, and definitely with the foam, it is adhering with the canvas really well. It's adhering with the weed cloth really well, pulling the foam up. And same with the screen. I'd say with the screen it probably did the worst. It pulled up the least amount of foam with the screen, so that means it failed to glue to the surface, which is weird, you know. I mean, it's the same glue, 3 different kinds of cloth. You would think that it would be the same result, but you can see here, I mean, we're pulling up foam here. We're pulling that film off, and you can feel the texture, but over here, it's more like we just sanded it instead of pulling anything up, because that film is gone. So it's got a hold of the film, but it didn't really pull the foam up with it, which is kind of strange. And the canvas is seriously, I mean, it's on there pretty hard. It's like armor, but I would hate to have to sand this because this stuff is so hard. I would hate to be sanding the entire camper, so I don't really want to go this route with the covering, the exterior covering, but this does do a really good job. It's pretty stiff and hard. So if you want a really stiff and hard, that's what she said. If you want a stiff and hard exterior cloth, I think that's probably the best thing to go with. Then we got Gorilla Glue HD. And again, it feels like we got some mixed results here. Kind of feels like it didn't quite dry. It did pull up foam, so kind of a mixture between foam failure and glue failure, but you get like this one here, you can definitely see was the foam failed, so that's a pass. And of course couldn't separate these two with the, let me see with the cloths. Mixed results. It does like the screen best. It did okay with the canvas. I mean, it's pulling up a little bit, but I feel like the glue's still on the foam, and didn't do so well with that. The HD with the screen, the glue stayed on the foam really well, and the screen pulled up, so that's good. I would rather have that where the glue stays with the foam rather than everything coming up with the cloth. If the cloth pulls out of the glue and the glue is still on the foam, that means it's adhering to the foam pretty well. And again, weird how it behaves different between this and this and this, but it likes working with the foam, in my opinion. That seems to be kind of a good route. Put that back. Now the Gorilla Glue Ultimate, kind of different story there, where the foam came up with the screen. It feels like it might have pulled up some of that film coating, and you can see a little bit of pink in the glue, but it did not. It pulls up fairly easy. This, I think the HD did better. The Ultimate, again, failed at the joints, at the foam, so the foam gave way. That's what you're looking for, instead of the glue failing to hold. This one was the only one I was able to separate, which I find very odd, but again, it did fail at the foam. So it ripped up this film layer, and the film layer, I think, is the weak point of all these glue joints. I think that's the biggest takeaway we can get. Again, didn't do too well here, came right up. Weed cloth, same thing, kind of came right up. I'm liking the weed cloth though for the overall finished texture. The screen I know is pretty nice, but if you had to overlap it, I think you could see the seams, or I think this, if you had to overlap it, I don't think you would see it as much because it's very thin. So I'm liking the weed cloth idea. I think that was brilliant, whoever that was that I saw that video where you did that. The weed cloth, I think, is definitely the way to go. So, okay. The Ultimate, Gorilla Glue Ultimate, makes good joints. It's not so good with the cloth, but the Ultimate was very thick. It's very, very thick to work with. The Gorilla Glue HD was medium thick. I think I would rather, if we're doing some serious joints that are critical, I think I'd rather use the Gorilla Glue regular. And I know I put ease of use for a no because it is a very messy glue. But when you have the little bottle and you actually cut the tip off and use it the correct way, like a squeeze out glue, it's not too bad, but it does get stringy, it does get sticky, it does end up kind of everywhere. So it's kind of messy. So for that reason, I give it a no on easy use. But I think for the critical joints, I think Gorilla Glue regular is probably going to be what I'm going to want to do. And then I think for Gorilla Glue heavy duty, I think that's what I'm going to do for all my semi-critical joints, you know, like cabinet building and all that. But I think for a lot of it, I think the Gorilla Glue really is the best thing to do. The Foam Fast did good, but 50-50 results. So maybe another fail, or another tryout on the Foam Fusion with some new glue and the Foam Fast and the Gorilla Glue. I think we ought to have a kind of a shootout, and instead of doing a sample size of 1, because like we had, I forget which ones we had. We had some of them where we had 2 two uprights like the elastomeric. We had two edge to flat, so we had two 90s there, two 90s there, but everything else was pretty much 190. We had two 90s here on the Gorilla Glue, but one of them was with moisture. I think we ought to have more of like a head-to-head where we take and do like 4 90s. The 90s are definitely the worst joints. When it's flat to flat, you get a lot of surface area. So the biggest problem really, and the most joints you're gonna have is really the 90s. So pretty much everything in here, I mean, with these though, I did do kind of rabbet pockets. So this not, because that's more just of like a spacer piece. But we did rabbet pockets for pretty much everything. Ugh. And then cut it flatter. And I would rather use that Kingston foam rather than this, because they have these little edge things in there every so often. I don't understand why they do that, but it's definitely a weak point, because you can see they've got some kind of split there, and it makes it weak. And if I was gonna buy some more foam, I'd probably look for that Kingston or whatever the heck it's called. But anyways, back on track, back to the point. The other takeaway really is I think we need to try sanding more than anything, and try the adhesive primer, have a shootout with the Gorilla Glue, the Foam Fusion, and the Foam Fast. And right here we have a board that's been sanded and primered. So what I'm going to do now is slap on some exterior Valspar semi-gloss exterior, and then put in some cloth on this. And I think between sanding and priming first, because when it's sanded and then primed, this has a very sandy, has a very gritty surface. Whereas like when we tried our other test with this sanding here and primer and then putting the cloth right in it, it's not doing a great job holding everything up. I don't think we've probably didn't go through these samples. Yeah, not very impressed. The sanding versus perforated. So we got a little perforator roller. They all came out about the same. They didn't really perform much different between all three of them. You know, really, yeah, about the same. But now I think the key is, let's try sanding and then priming. And like I said, this is a very gritty surface. Now that we have this very gritty, grippy surface that's really on the foam, stuck to the foam, because that's a takeaway here is that I think once we do that and then we get some paint on it and then we put on our cloth, I think that's going to be the winner. And I'm hoping that the weed cloth is going to perform the best. So I'm going to do that today, get the weed cloth there, and then I think we definitely need to revisit with the probably have a shoot up between the spray foam and Gorilla Glue, and maybe Gorilla Glue HD, the Foam Fast, and the Foam Fusion. And I think that's going to have to be our final test. Otherwise, you know, I think it's just kind of a waste at this point to keep playing around, but that's where we're at today. So thanks for watching.